Hello, welcome back to my aquarium. Today, in honor of it being 2 years to the date of COVID ruining all of our lives, March 13th, 2020, I'm going to be discussing my experience with the coronavirus. I'm going to give a little COVID-19 quick review here. First, I wanted to give a little timeline of how I got it. Somehow, me and my entire family managed to escape getting it for almost 2 years. We all recently had it within the last month or so. So the first exposure, my immediate family, I'm sure I've been exposed plenty of times, but it was with my grandparents, and they tested positive on January 17th and 18th, my grandma and grandpa, so they were fine. And I was around them while they were positive, and we all managed to escape it. And then about a month later, my mom tested positive, and she just had, minor flu-like symptoms, cold symptoms. And then my stepdad tested positive 2 days later. He had a cough and a slight fever, temporary, but they were both pretty much fine. It was very minor symptoms for them. And then my brother and I, who were both around them, hugging them within the same vicinity, breathing the same air, sharing drinks even, we were perfectly fine for about a week. And then on February 23rd, which was exactly 8 days after my mom tested positive, I had this really, really severe congestion at nighttime, and I just assumed that it was my allergies because it happens to me quite often. And then the next day, I didn't feel any better, and I was like, okay, this is kind of shady. I'm still sick, and it feels like more than congestion. I had some body aches, fever-like symptoms, but I didn't really have a fever quite yet. It was just 98, which is for me technically a fever because my resting temperature is high 96s. It just felt like I was achy, and I had a lot of facial pressure from my sinus congestion. And still tested negative that day. Next day was still negative until the following morning. I finally tested positive, which was on the 25th. So that was 10 days exactly after my mom tested positive. I also want to mention that I just tested with one of the at-home tests. It was one of these Binax Now Abbott COVID tests that's the kind of looks like a sucker. But yeah, I took several different types, and when I was positive, they were all consistent. Just thought I would point that out. And my symptoms were tolerable, but they were worse than my other family members. I had a fever. I had some nausea the first 2 nights, during the night, I think, which was from all the phlegm. The fever didn't go any higher than 101, and that lasted throughout only 1 night, and then I just had a low-grade fever on and off for a couple days. And my taste and smell were still intact. The main symptoms lasted about 4 days long. And then on the 4th day, when my body aches and it was basically flu-like symptoms. It wasn't anything terrible. It was tolerable. I was able to walk around, get fluids down. But on the 4th day, when my body aches and fever and all of that were going away, my taste and smell started to go. And that lasted about, I would say, probably 6 days. It's still not 100% there, but it's definitely much improved. I could taste most things. And one of the things with the taste and smell dysfunction was that some things I could taste slightly, some had zero taste, and then some things with stronger flavors, typically onion, garlic, that kind of thing, would burn my nose and my throat really badly, and there was no flavor, just a burning sensation, which was kind of strange. But yeah, I would say my taste and smell are 90% now. It's pretty much normal. Otherwise, I feel completely fine again. The only thing is I have this very, very bad post-nasal drip, and I wake up with just a sore throat from that, and I'm constantly clearing my throat throughout the day. I just have this chronic phlegm now from the virus, I guess, but it's tolerable. My body aches are all gone. And then I'd also like to mention that my brother, who had the same amount of exposure as I did, ended up getting sick on March 4th, which was exactly 1 week after I tested positive, but he had more stomach flu-like symptoms, and he tested negative throughout the few days he was sick, and he was completely fine. So I think he somehow managed to escape it, knock on wood. My little cousin who I was with also caught it and tested positive the next day. But I would say overall, my family and I, once again, knock on wood, were pretty okay. It was tolerable. I would say the most annoying thing is just the constant clearing my throat, and the loss of taste and smell is kind of annoying, but luckily it's coming back. I've heard horror stories about it. My advice: drink a lot of water, have a lot of tissues near you. That was another thing. I didn't have any tissues. I just used paper towels for most of my nose blowing, which wasn't good. And wear a mask and get vaccinated. I recommend. I didn't get my booster. I just got my first 2 doses of the Moderna vaccine. I think the second dose was in April of 2021. Never got a booster, but my antibodies were still high before I tested positive. It was still tolerable even without the booster, but I do recommend getting vaccinated and wear your masks. And on that note, hopefully the pandemic's over soon. See you in the next video.